Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, what time it is where you are in the world, wherever this video has found you, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Marissa Nystrom and I'm part of the community team here at Tongal, where we are on a mission to bring the world's creative work to the world's creative talent. Right now, you can get to work on a number of briefs from clients like UFC, Nutella, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and more. So definitely check out our open projects page if you're looking for your next writing or production gig. Today, I am happy to be joined by Andrew Schwartz, who, in addition to his current role as studio liaison at Final Draft, has worked in various writerly and production roles over the years. And we are super excited to absorb all of that great knowledge from you today. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. I know we've been working with Final Draft on and off over the years, and it's really cool to really dig in and learn more about the program and bring that to our community. I'm curious. I just wanted to maybe get to know you a little bit. Let our community get to know you a little bit before we jump into a demo. But as the studio liaison at Final Draft, what is your favorite thing about your job? And what does my job look like?
So my day-to-day is, first of all, managing our studio accounts. And that ranges from, Warner Brothers TV to just a new writer's room that's popping up in town somewhere. Especially right now, there are a lot of shows in pre-production and development. So we've been having a pretty strong hand in setting these writers up in the virtual setting, virtual writer's room. So my day-to-day is managing the studio accounts, finding new business to sell to, closing the deals, and also being a point of contact and, like you said, liaison for our industry professionals. So if a pro writer needs tech help, if they have a question, if they have a feature request, they would pass that along to me. I would work through maybe some of the issues or concerns they're having and then figure out who on our team it may need to go to after. Usually it's something I can handle, but if it becomes a conversation where they're submitting feedback and want to see a certain feature implementation, then I would take that, distill the information and pass it along to our product team, because we obviously value feedback a lot here. And especially when it comes from, someone working in the industry, it's something we put a lot of stock into. But that doesn't go to say that we don't take feedback and consider feedback from every single person who submits it. So that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be exciting to see what new features people want, and being able to implement that and make it happen for them is probably pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're still working on being able to write the script out for you.
Someday.
Someday, hopefully, we'll get that in there. But
well,
yeah.
Well, that's well, call me when that's ready.
Yeah, I will. I'll do another demo for that.
Absolutely. And I also understand that you had a writer's workshop here in LA.
I do.
Could you maybe tell us a little bit about that and how important it is to really have a community as a writer to share your work with?
So what I run is what we call the Los Angeles Saturday Workshop, Writers Workshop. It was started, I think, almost 20 years ago. A few Boston University alums, I went to BU, had started it back then. One of the people who started it is Michael Russell Gunn. And Michael Russell Gunn he's a writer. He was Aaron Sorkin's writer's assistant on The Newsroom. He was a producer on Designated Survivor, and he was a supervising producer on Billions, and he's writing a new feature for NBC Universal. So he started it. I had spoken with him about 2 years ago. Actually, I joined the Writers Workshop about 4 years ago, just as a normal writer. And I sort of became very friendly with the people who were running it and him. And long story short, I found out about 2 years ago that the Writers Workshop wasn't going to come back. The person who was running it at the time, it wasn't Michael Russell Gunn. The person at the time was sort of getting a little jaded by running it. So what I did was I reached out to the people at BU and Michael Russell Gunn, and I offered to donate a studio site license, an educational site license to the BU Computer Lab. in turn to have me run it and take it over.
Mm.
So we got the licensing in there. And from then on, I've been running it, sort of taking it over and trying to beef it up as much as we can. What we do is, what's really special about our writers workshop is there are about 9 writers in it. And we have table reads every week for our pages.
Oh, very cool.
Sometimes we try to we try to marry our actors to particular projects so that they can come in and really get familiar with projects that are being written by, working professional writers too. So I think that's a really big differentiator in our workshop. It's been around for so long. It's very dedicated. We meet every Saturday, but we also have these actors coming in to table read. So we try to make it as beneficial for everyone involved.
That's really cool because, right, you could write something on the page, but if it doesn't sound right coming out of the actor's mouth, then you got to go back to the drawing board.
Exactly. So it's been really, really helpful. And I think it's really important to have that community for me and for everyone else. Being able to bounce ideas off of your colleagues and your peers is like invaluable. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Do you have an opinion on what the greatest script of all time is, just out of curiosity? I feel like this is a good argument that I'm sure people in the comments too. If you have what is the greatest script of all time?
I think keyword there is opinion, but I'd say ultimately, I know. I'll send my email out if anyone wants to, sidebar me after. I think ultimately it's maybe a cop-out, but I really do think it's not even my favorite movie, but I think Pulp Fiction is up there with one of the greatest screenplays of all time. I think because of the way it sort of shattered the notion of what a screenplay could be at the time. I think that's really important. I always love pieces of art and works that sort of just break down boundaries and sort of pave the way for new work.
It's moving the culture forward.
Moving the culture forward, what it says about the time it was made and everything that came after. I think that's always really, really important for me as somebody who likes to study sort of cultural artifacts like that. And I would also say that Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee is up there. And in terms of TV, I think Breaking Bad is a phenomenal pilot. And
absolutely.
Anything by any script from The Sopranos too, I'll give, because it's like
all right.
The best.
Everyone's got their reading assignments now. Great.
Yeah.
All right. So today's show, there's been a lot of talk right now about how people are using their time during this extraordinary moment, and as they're self-isolating at home, picking up a new skill, tapping into passion projects, going into development. And I know a lot of our community members are certainly using this time as an opportunity to write that screenplay that they've been meaning to get to. So that's why I think it's really cool that we can, today help our screenwriters unlock the full power of Final Draft 11. So could you maybe give us a little bit of a taste for what we're going to be covering today?
Yeah, so that's exactly correct. It is Final Draft 11. That's going to be the main focus of the demo. Some of the new features in Final Draft 11, just to give you an overview of what's in the program now as opposed to previous versions. And you bring up a really good point about working remotely. I'll definitely touch on some of the ways that you can work the program in this remote sense. If you have co-writers and writing partners, or just people who you are sort of collaborating with, I'll give you some ideas and some workarounds on how to make sure everyone's on the same page and how you can write together, even if we're, separated.
That sounds awesome. And for everyone watching, feel free to ask questions along the way. We're going to answer them throughout or at the end of the demo. Try to get to as many of those as possible. And if you don't already own Final Draft 11, did you know that all Tongal community members can access an exclusive 30% discount off retail? That's right. Our pals at Final Draft have extended this very special offer to Tonglers through the end of the year, and you can get all the details at the link in this video description. But even better, if you're really, really quick, we are actually running a little giveaway on Instagram that just launched yesterday. Check it out. There it is. Our Final Draft giveaway. We're giving out 5 copies, and you can submit your entry through the link also in the description by next Thursday. We're going to be we'll be awarding that to 5 creators from our community, and are really excited. And thank you guys for that as well. We're really super excited. I know our community is thrilled as well.
Love that. Yeah.
And if you are just joining us, I'm Marissa from Tongal Community, and I'm joined by Andrew Schwartz. He is the studio liaison at Final Draft, and he is going to walk us through the latest version of the screenwriting software used by just about every industry professional, from your neighborhood coffee shop playwright to every year's recipient of the Best Screenplay Award, probably. Don't count me on. Don't quote me on that, but I'm gonna guess like a high percentage. And if you're here with us live, of course, please give us your questions. Say hello to us in the comments. We'd love to see who's watching. And I think that with all that being said, it's time to dive into the demo.
Fantastic. Okay, so like we had mentioned before, this is Final Draft 11. Actually, what I have pulled up here is one of our sample scripts. I don't know if how many people know this or not, but Final Draft actually does come with a few sample scripts that can be easily accessed by going to the Help menu up here. Help, sample script. I'm working in this script. It's a very basic script right now, but I like to put that out there because it's a great sandbox for you to sort of play with some of these features that I'll go over today. So this is the sample script. When you pull up Final Draft, you'll see that my screen is in my window's in a split screen view. On the left, we have our screenplay, and on the right, we have what is called the Beatboard. Now, that's a lot of information to look at right there, so I'm gonna table that and go over that in further detail later. So I'm just gonna go ahead and unsplit my panel here, just so we can be looking solely at our sample script, our screenplay. So now this is obviously a page that has some content on it. For everyone who's maybe a little bit newer to the program, I'm gonna just really briefly go over what we're looking at here. So there are 4 main components to a Final Draft window. When you have the program open, it's the menu bar, the toolbar, the document window, and the status bar here at the bottom. Now, the menu bar isn't customizable. The status bar is sort of going to give you indications into your workflow. If you notice, when I click into an element, certain things start happening down here at the bottom. It tells me what page I'm on. I can use this to jump to a new page if I need to. And I can sort of get a clear indication of what element I might be jumping to in the next line as I write. So that brings me to something that you are able to customize, and that is our toolbar, which is, like I said, the second thing I pointed out here, the toolbar here at the top of the screen. Now, this is a really great way, if I customize my toolbar, it's a really great way for me to sort of highlight some of the new features in Final Draft and bring them into my toolbar so that they're easily accessible, right? Now, another thing I wanted to really quickly say, it's one thing I always like to start off saying at the top of my demos is, Final Draft is the industry standard, but about 90% of our users use only 10% of our features, and 10% of our users use 90% of our features. That 10% of people is usually very production heavy, script coordinators, producers, people who are breaking down the script for budgeting and scheduling and so on and so forth, issuing out revisions to various department heads and so on and so forth. But hopefully by the end of this demo, we'll get up to like 30–40% with the new features. So that said, what I'm going to do now is going to go ahead and customize my toolbar. So again, so we can see some of the new features and have them easily accessible. So if I go to View and I go to Customize my toolbar, what you'll see here is an option of all these different hotkey icons that I can drag into my toolbar to have easy access to. So one of the first things I want to do is drag in this insert. Oh, that's the default. Is go ahead and drag in the insert image icon. This is a brand new feature in Final Draft 11. Previous versions, you did not have the ability to use images in your script. And now that you have it in Final Draft 11, it's really helpful if, one, you're importing a logo onto your title page for your production company or for your pilot script, If you want to use an image within the body of the script itself to convey something with, the visual accompaniment, it's 2020, people are looking for different ways to communicate our ideas. So image support is a really, really great feature that's only available in Final Draft 11. And I'll go into some of those examples on how we can actually implement images into the script in just a moment. But moving down the line with some of these new features, there is also the collaboration feature. So if I take the collaboration icon here, and I bring that into my toolbar, now I have easy access to grabbing the collaboration feature. Another feature that I like to have in there, and then I'll go over this in further detail as well, are bookmarks. So if I take the bookmark icon in there, and so on and so forth, I think we get the general idea of what I'm doing here. But I'm customizing my toolbar, so I know that there are certain features that I like to use more than others. I want to put those in my toolbar so I can have easy access to them. Now, if there's something I find that I don't use a lot, then I can just get rid of that by taking it out of the toolbar, and it's gone. But that was the Beatboard, and that's a really great feature, so I'm going to go ahead and put it back. And
we do need that one.
We want that one. We want that one. But for the demo's sake, he survived the cut. So we're putting the Beatboard back in there, and I think that's okay for now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done. And what's also really great about this is that now that I've customized my toolbar, I can open a different script. And hold on one second. Let me get the right script here. I can open up a different script, and it'll have the same information. So just give me 1 second. I have, unfortunately, a lot of demo scripts that I do, if you can believe it. So I bring up the other script that I want to write. Now, this is a little demo that we're going to use for now. That's a little less confusing than the airship script. But you'll see that all my icons that I wanted to customize are still in the toolbar. So moving down the line, one thing I also like to put at the top of my demos is the fact that we can sort of manipulate the autosave functions to mitigate the risk of losing work. Everyone has experienced before in their life a crash and some lost data, whether it's with us or another program. These things happen, but we have certain nets installed to help recover your work. If you've lost data, 9 out of 10 times you can recover that. So what I do here is, now that I have my script open, first of all, I do want to save. Save as and save are always your friends. I've saved this script, I've titled this script as demo script, so I'm just going to hit save. But if I were to start a new document, it would show up as an untitled script. And in fact, I can show you that really quickly, because there's something else that I should go over at the top of this script, at the top of this demo. And that's the fact that if I were to open a new template, if I went to File, New from Template, I could choose between all of these pre-baked templates that are in the program upon your first installation when you first launch it. If I were to go to File, New from Template, if I wasn't pulling up a script that I already had worked on, I could choose from scripts, regular scripts, everything from screenplays to musicals, and screenplays that have a very formulaic structure to them, like a Warner Brothers template. I can go to our TV templates that have examples for half-hour sitcoms or 1-hour TV dramas, graphic novels, and text-based document templates as well, right? So if I wanted to open one of these instead of a normal screenplay, I would go to File, New from Template, and then I would go to File, Save As, and I'd save my template there. Another thing to note, while I have this window open before I go back into saving your actual document, is that we offer additional templates. If I were to hit download more templates, this would bring me to a window where I would just pop in my email address, and very shortly thereafter would get a zip folder containing tons of more script templates that are available. And a lot of these script templates that are available in this ancillary package are real life examples of shows that are currently or were previously in production on air and on a network. Now, this is really helpful if you are submitting to fellowships or you're trying to emulate the formatting of a particular TV show that you're writing. So if you did want to submit a spec script of Better Call Saul to a fellowship, you can go to our website, clicking this link. Again, it's file new from templates, download more templates. You can go there and download an actual formatted spec of Better Call Saul. You can clear out the content and you can write your own script and submit that to a fellowship. So that's really, really helpful. So let's just say I did open up a new screenplay now and I saved it and I wrote some material and I want to make sure I'm, again, mitigating the risk of losing any of the work that I have completed. I will go to the Final Draft 11 menu, go to About Final Draft. Actually, I don't want to do that, sorry. Go to Preferences. That was my customer number for anyone who just was able to briefly get it. So I'll keep an eye on the downloads and activations. So if I went to Preferences and I go to Autosave Backup, the very first thing I see at the top of this window is the autosave frequency. You can change this. I think the default is maybe 5 minutes, but I can actually bump that up to every 3 minutes, right? So the program's going to autosave every 3 minutes. Now, I also want to deselect Ask Before Autosave because I don't want the program to interrupt my workflow every 3 minutes, but I want to know that on the back end, it is saving a time-stamped copy of my script every 3 minutes. Once we have those two settings toggled on and off, we go down to Auto Backup. We want to make sure Auto Backup is enabled. I believe they changed the default file count, backup folder file count to maybe 500, but you can actually go up to 1,000. Now, what that is saying is that every 3 minutes, the program's going to autosave a copy of my script and send a time-stamped version of that script to my backup folder where I can easily access it. If I just go to Open Backup Folder, then you'll see all of these scripts here, even from this morning, just having these open. It's been saving my script. And if I had lost something, well, I can reopen it, and chances are you wouldn't have lost more than 3 minutes of work.
Unless you're really on a roll.
I mean, yeah, if you can write it, they usually say it's 1 page of the script equals 1 minute of screen time. But so just think of it like that. If you've written 3 pages in 3 minutes, then you're pretty gifted. And
anyone could. Yeah. I mean, somebody could probably do it, but not me.
I'm sure they can. But yeah, but in any event, it would be there, and you can recover it. So that's really, really helpful. It's something that I just like to put at the top so everyone knows. You can do that. What's also really helpful now, especially in the sense that we're sort of working remote, is that I can, if I'm collaborating with another writer, and we both want to make sure we have access to the script, I can change the location of my backups. So I could send my backups to Dropbox or iCloud. And if I'm in a shared folder, then I can automatically know that anyone who has access to that folder is going to have access to my backups and all my scripts. And you can also change, you can save your work to a shared folder in Dropbox or iCloud. That sort of gets into your computer settings. When I go to File, Save As, I can choose to be saving this to my iCloud drive, or I can be saving it to a shared folder that's linked to Dropbox. So while we're collaborating, knowing that you can sort of back up to the cloud and access it from the cloud as well is going to be really helpful for people who are collaborating in this virtual setting. We can pass along actual step-by-step instructions for that as well. So after, if anyone is really interested in doing that, you can have the step-by-step instructions, because again, we sort of move it out of Final Draft, but it's really, really helpful if you're going to be collaborating and want to know that everything's in the cloud, as well as on your desktop. Yeah, so that was, it's really helpful. It's saved a lot of people's work, and enabled the remote workflow. So that's autosave. So that's saving my documents. Very, very easy, very simple, but it's something that can really save you a lot of headaches in the future. Let's move on to that first feature that I was talking about, and that is inserting an image. So I put my insert image icon here in the toolbar, and let's say I wanted to go to my title page and insert an image there. Well, I know that I can go to Document Title Page, like that, but I can also grab the title page right from the title page icon on my toolbar. And it pops up. So now that I've gotten a title and I've, put my name on it, I want to insert an image. Well, what I can do is I can simply hit that insert image icon, go to my desktop, and choose the image that I want. Let's do this one. Now, a simple resize of the image. That's a little bit more. You always got to play with it a little bit, and some formatting, and there it is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's right there in the script. I mean, you can always, it's not going to hurt if you put a little extra flair on your script if this gets passed along a producer or an agent's desk and they see that, it may help bolster the probability that your script's going to get read.
And I'm sure it helps set the tone a little bit. Visual things
Exactly. Like I said before, the visual accompaniment isn't something to overlook. Even I know Stranger Things was sold on a very, very visual show Bible. It was almost a book.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, don't discredit. I know this is a screenplay, but don't discredit using images just yet because it's out there and it's a great feature to sort of use if you really have a world that you're building and you want to convey that. So that's my title page. I'm gonna save it. And we're going to close out of the title page. Once I've done that there, it is saved. So that's really, really great. And another thing about images too is that if I wanted to, for the sake of the demo and sake of, showing you that I can use the hotkeys in the toolbar, I could actually just drag that image from my desktop to the script. So a simple click and drag would do the exact same thing I just did. So you have the ability to insert it from the icon. You can drag it from your desktop, or you can use the insert menu at the top of the screen, insert image. So you have a few options, but it's in the toolbar. So we like to know that it's easily accessible. It's right there. The next feature I'm going to go over is our collaboration feature. So if I hit the collaboration icon, what happens? Well, collaboration window pops up, right? So what is this doing? Well, collaboration in Final Draft 11 is really great because it allows real-time collaboration for any amount of writers anywhere in the world. In Final Draft 10, we had collaboration, but it was actually a baton system, which meant you had to hand off the capabilities to edit the script when you're in a collaboration session. In 11, you can use this similar to how you would use Google Docs. Mm-hmm. You could only collaborate on the script window for now. We are working on trying to implement more features to be accessible while you're in collaboration. But for right now, if you're just working on a script with a writer, you can host or join a collaboration session. Right now, I'm going to host it. And you can, let's put my name in there. Now you can work with anyone, anywhere in the world at any time, any amount of writers. Now that you see I have a collaboration session window open, I have a collaboration session ID to go along with that. So once I have this, I take this ID, this unique ID, and I can text, email, send a Raven, anything you need to do to get that ID to your collaborators. Nice. They'll be the only ones. You decide who gets access to the collaboration window. They get that ID, they join it, they put their name in there, and then they can join. Now, let's say I have some other people in here. You'll see that my cursor in the script is here at the end of this last sentence is red. Anyone else who's joining, they'll have their own cursor that's their own color. So you can see who's writing. You can jump to multiple pages in the script depending on whoever's writing. And what's really also great is that nothing is stored. This is totally safe and totally secure. Nothing is stored in a cloud server. Nothing is being kept anywhere in a cloud or on a server. It's using keystrokes to just send what you're typing out to one person and another. When this collaboration session ends, anyone who is in that session will get a copy of the script saved to their desktop. And that's the only place it'll ever be saved. It's not going to be, again, stored in our server, anyone else's server, or the cloud. It's only localized.
I can imagine that that's a very important feature for some of the higher up studios and TV shows that have to be kept under wraps.
They mentioned a few things about that, so make sure that was the case. Yeah. And you can also, so, you know, this is also, what's really great is I have my collaboration window open here. We can talk and text and, you know, go over certain things that are happening in the script right there in that window. You can also, if one person's internet isn't as strong as the other person's internet, you can refresh the window, which will just, like it very clearly says, just refreshes everything that you're working on. And yeah, then you'll be able to make sure everyone's still on the same page. Now, the one thing to note about collaboration for anyone who's watching is that you have to be on the exact same version and build of the program for collaboration to work. So make sure you're on Final Draft 11, and make sure you've, if there are any free updates available to the program, make sure you download those updates and make sure everyone's on that same version and build of the program. So if anyone were to buy Final Draft 11 today and download it, they would all be on that same version. But you can always check for updates by going up here to the help menu and going to check for updates. But when a free update is available, when you launch the program, it should say there's an update available, please download it. So always encourage people to do that, because when we release updates, free updates, they're there to, you know, fix bugs or enhance features or really anything that we feel is, you know, worthy of getting back into the program. So make sure everyone's on the same build, same version of the program, and obviously make sure everyone has an internet connection to use collaboration.
That would help.
Yeah. That I should have said that at the beginning. You can write anywhere in the world and with anyone, and all you need is an internet connection. But so there it is. So that's collaboration. Again, we can link after the demo. We can link to an actual dedicated collaboration tutorial video that will sort of go over this in further detail and show you an example of actually having more people to collaborate with. I don't have anyone to collaborate with right now, unfortunately. But
and all your demo videos, or these sort of like walkthrough videos, they're on your YouTube channel, or are they on the? Okay, cool.
They're on our YouTube channel. Some are on our website. In fact, some also, if after you've purchased the program, will, you know, get sent to you after you download. Just says, like, you know, here's a feature that we've just put in, or here's a really helpful feature to use while you're working remotely. So they're out there, but if you wanted to get all 30 of the videos, they are on the YouTube channel.
Very good.
Yeah, so that's collaboration. So I'm going to close out the collaboration session. And I'm going to hit OK. And like I said, so that would, after I close that out, each person's going to get a copy of the script we just worked on. So that's the only place it's going to be. Moving right along. One feature that actually was available in Final Draft 10, but is also available in Final Draft 11, is alternate dialogue.
Oh yeah, this one I think is really cool.
This is a cool feature. This is a really helpful feature, especially if you're still working out, you know, how you want your script to sound and whatnot. So what I did was, when I placed my cursor here into this line of dialogue here, we know that anything following a character element is our dialogue. And we can also see that from the elements icon here in the menu bar that I'm in dialogue. When I've clicked on dialogue, a little plus icon popped up here towards the right of my dialogue. And if I hover over that little icon, it says add new alt, right? Now, if you don't see that plus icon there, that means that you don't have the ability to use alternate dialogue turned on. So look, so if I place my cursor in and alternate dialogue isn't on, then that plus icon isn't there. But I can also add an alt here in my toolbar, because we know that our features are there. But I can also turn an alternate dialogue on by going to Show, View, Show Alts. Now that I have the plus icon on, again, I hover over it. This plus icon is going to function the same way that this add alt icon here in my toolbar would. So if I click on the plus icon here in the script, this is giving me the ability to now add a new line of dialogue in addition to the one I just had. So now we see that if I only had one line of dialogue before, I hit the plus icon. Now this counter here on the left says 2 out of 2. So now I can add some new dialogue. Right. I can add another one If I want to do like a PG-13 version.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If I want to maybe do a funny version or a more dramatic version, I can try out all these different lines of dialogue and see which one I like the best. I can get a high level view of all the alternate dialogues that I've added into the script by hovering over this ticker here on the left. It says show current alts. Once I click that, I can see all the different options that I've had, and I can choose which one I like from here. Now, once I've landed on the bit of dialogue that I like, I can turn alternate dialogue off without deleting those additional lines of dialogue that I've written. Because what's really great about alternate dialogue is that you can add, I'm not sure if there's a limit to how many you can add, but let's just say you can add, as many as you want, as many different options of dialogue you want without altering the page count of your script or altering the pagination of your script, right? Once I've landed on the line of dialogue that I want to use, when I export this script to PDF or if I print the paper, you're not going to see any of the alt options there. You're not going to see any of the icons here on the right. It's just going to be the line that I chose. So this is happening on the back end of the FDX, the final draft file, right? So if I did land on the version of dialogue that I like, and maybe it was the first one, I can just delete them, and now I've landed on this one. But again, I wouldn't actually be altering the page count or the pagination of my script by putting multiple lines of dialogue in the alternate dialogue window. So great way, again, to try out different lines of dialogue in your script, and also a great way to get that high-level view of the stuff that you have written and want to select from there. So that's alternate dialogue. Again, we can also do that right here in the toolbar. Yeah, so great little feature. It was available in 10, but it's still available in 11 because it's just that good.
It's just that good. I can just imagine, especially for like comedic writers that are like, I want to try different punchlines, like what's going to work. And
I think I usually hear that from comedic writers the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
That they're using it to try out different punchlines. It can be really helpful. Moving right along. So when I pulled up our sample script before, what I had open was the Beatboard, right? The Beatboard, and it was also showing you, I believe, the story map. I'll get to that in a second, but right before I even do that, I also wanted to pull up Airship one more time to show you that in split screen view. So if I were to split my screen without having another feature open, I'm seeing two panels of the same script. If I place my cursor in the panel that I want to change and click the icon here in the toolbar, just give it a second to load, then I can split my screen to show my script here on the left, or my Beatboard, this new feature that I'll go over in a second, here on the right. So that's really helpful. You can also do that with some of the other features in the program, such as index cards, which are different from using the Beatboard. But you do have the ability to have two panels open at the same time to be in split screen view. So that way you can use features like the Beatboard in conjunction with the script, because that is how they work once you get the flow of how they talk to one another. But with this open, the one thing I wanted to show you is that we have, hold on, night mode. There it is.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is a feature that's only available in Final Draft 11. Night mode, as it sounds, is a view that allows you to reduce the strain on your eyes if you're working at night. It also looks good during the day as well, and it, against the Beatboard, which you can customize or color code as you need to, it gives you that option to have it sort of just be a little less harsh on your eyes. So that's something that's only available in Final Draft 11. I think it's worth going over. If you wanted to toggle on night mode, there's a crescent moon icon here in the bottom right. Just select that to go on or off, and that's night mode.
Great for all of our writers that are up all night working on the screenplays.
That's the writer's life, right?
That's the time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's new in Final Draft 11. That's night mode, like I said. Pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone saw that. One other thing I wanted to go over as a feature that's in my toolbar, and just something that sort of goes back to the very beginning of what we were talking about in my writer's workshop. One of the features I like to have in my toolbar is the highlighter tool. You can highlight certain things that you maybe want to look at later. You can highlight characters. And if I really wanted to take highlighting characters a step further, sorry, the computer's running a little bit slower today, of course, while I'm doing a demo. But what we can do is we can actually choose, we can highlight characters as we need to. And that's been really helpful for me in my writer's workshop. As I'm distributing scripts for actors to read, I can actually highlight their characters in the script. If I hit OK, I can scroll down and very quickly see where all of my protagonists' lines are. They're highlighted. And if there's a particular moment in the script where I want to see my characters interact, I can get that very quick high-level view of my protagonist and maybe the antagonist or their love interest, whomever it is. But that's character highlighting. But also just having the ability to highlight certain bits of text in your script is going to be really helpful if you are, if you're collaborating with somebody and you want to highlight certain things that you want them to look at. You can highlight, send the script over, they can look at it, then they can clear the highlights out when they need to.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and clear out these highlights again, but that's something that I always like to just show people because it has been very helpful. I think, okay, so we have a question about the beatboard, the best way to lay out a beatboard, so I will go into that. Just actually just getting into that now. So that's going to be a great question. I think you'll find this extremely, extremely helpful. So what I'm going to do, though, is actually going to bounce back to the script that I was working on previously. So just, again, this is the high-level sample script. Play around in here as much as you need to. But for the demo's sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my other script when my computer allows it. And see, what I'm doing now is saving. Because even if I'm doing a demo, I want to make sure I'm saving everything. I just have a habit of saving. But
I think, most people probably get into that habit. You just hit the,
just hit the save icon. It's not going to hurt. So I'm back in my sample script, right? And I'm going to place my cursor here in the right, and I'm going to go to the beatboard. Okay, so we have a beatboard here. In fact, what I'm actually going to do is unsplit my panels, right? So I'm solely looking at my beatboard. Now, what is the beatboard? Well, the beatboard, it was available in Final Draft 10, but the beatboard in Final Draft 11 has taken it a step further to really become a sandbox digital corkboard for you to map out your ideas, catch some of your ideas, bring in images, pretty much do whatever you need to do before you get into the script itself. One thing to note with the beatboard is that there isn't a one-to-one connection between what you put in the beatboard and what's in your script. Right, you can bring stuff over from your script into the beatboard, which I will show you. But the beatboard is really there as picture it as literally being a corkboard that was in your apartment or in your writer's room. Now that's housed in the file of your script now, right? And we all know that that a corkboard in a writer's room is there so you can outline your script. You can break your script out in beats using index cards and post-it notes and so on and so forth. You can now do that here in your file. Right here in the program. This is going to be housed in the same file of the script that I'm working on, but I can also choose to export the beatboard and share that with my collaborators as well. So
that's really cool. But Andrew, what do I do with all the index cards and post-its that I have left over now?
Recycle them.
Use them for something else.
Yeah, or get a writer's assistant to transcribe what you've written on them and put it in the beatboard.
Do people? I'm sure somebody still does that. Old habits die hard if you're used to writing it down.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we encourage that. I mean, use the pen and
then put it here so everyone can read it.
Put it here, have it analog and digital. So this is the beatboard. Now, what I mentioned that there isn't a one-to-one between the beatboard and the script. We can, like I said, show you how you can make that happen. But what there is a one-to-one connection, where you can see a one-to-one connection is using the beatboard and the story map. Now, these were both features that were enhanced in Final Draft 11. Right now, my story map isn't open, but if I wanted to display it, which I do, I want to go to view, and I want to go to show story map, right? So now we can start diving deeper into how to lay out a beatboard based on using this story map as well. So off the bat, let's look at a few things here. Now at the top, what I've done here is created a few very general catch-all departments, whatever you want to call them over here. When I want to create just this like little narrow bar, what I want to do is I want to create what's called the structure point, which is different from a beat, but we'll get to that in a second. And just sort of drag it out, narrow it out, drag it out, and enter whatever I'd like to keep this in. So let's say I was sending this file back and forth to my producer. I can title this section over here, Notes from Producer, and let's just say I was that producer who had gotten a copy of this. I can, now that I have a section to add my notes, I can literally just go to New Beat, and I can say, change this with an exclamation point. And
typical producer.
Typical producer, yeah. And I'll put that in there, and then I can add my notes here. I want to see more of the antagonist, or whatever the note is, obviously. But that is sort of one way to just have, before you start outlining a script using the beatboard, one way to just have a section where you can add notes as you need to. Like I said, you can bring images into the beatboard, which I'll go over in a second. But again, you can sort of create these individual sections in the beatboard for where you can map out the script, and where you can also just include general notes and so on and so forth. Now, one thing to note is when I turned on the story map, you'll see that there are two examples of these little hash marks here in the story map. Well, when I mentioned before that there's a structure point and a beat, well, that's what we're seeing up here in the story map, right? A structure point, as opposed to a beat, a structure point, you can see that here in the beatboard because it has a thicker border on it. When I start using the beatboard and the structure points and subsequent beats, I'm going to want to really lock down my workflow to know that if I'm using a structure point, it's usually going to denote a much larger plot point than just a beat, right? So if I'm using a Save the Cat script breakdown, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that, but Save the Cat beatboard example, or beat sheet example, is a way for you to outline your script based on major milestones that you're going to be hitting throughout the script. Now, those major milestones in the very beginning of your script are going to be your opening image, the theme of the script itself, the catalyst. And then if I wanted to start taking this a step further, then I would start adding more structure points to help me know when certain major story points are going to happen, structure points are going to happen, right? So the next one, if I put a catalyst in there, the next one's going to be my debate. And that's usually where our character is debating whether he wants to take the journey, right? And then just like to outline it here, or just make sure it's aligned, which you have the ability to do on some hotkeys, but I kind of just do it myself. And I keep adding debate, and I do break into Act 2, right? I can do this all the way down the script, and all the way down my beatboard, up until I can do my midpoint. And lastly, I can do, there's a lot of stuff that happens in between the midpoint.
Ba-bing, ba-boom, the story's over.
Hey, it's page 85. Let's all just go home, all right? Yeah. So what I can do here is we're going to jump. We're going to do the midpoint. I'm going to do the all is lost. And I'll give you guys one more, and I'll put in break into Act 3, right? So these are major milestones. If you are familiar with screenplay structure, you know that these are some of the bare bones of the major plot points you're going to hit. We have our beginning, middle, and end. So I think for the demo, that's fine. What we can also do is start color coding these. So let's say if my theme stated is color coded blue, and then that sort of gets brought up again in the all is lost moment, I'm going to color code that blue. If major moments are happening in red, then I can put this in red, put this one in red. My midpoint can be purple. And let's say the debate is very character heavy, so I can move that. And let's say my character, anything that happens to my character is maybe a lighter shade of red. If I went to custom, I can choose actually to have like,
unique color.
A unique color for that. So that's there. So, okay, well, now I've added all these structure points to my script, but what does that mean in terms of hitting these major milestones in my script? Well, that goes back to what I was saying before. The difference between a structure point and a beat is never more apparent than in the story map itself, right? So if I were to take my debate and I click it and I drag it into the story map and I put it around page 14, well, went to 13, but if I move it to 14, now you'll see that here in the upper right-hand corner of my debate structure point is a page goal. It went to 14. Moving along, if I want my break into Act 2 to happen around here, 24, 25, now I have a page goal of 24 for my break into Act 2. And I can do this all the way through my script. I chose to make this script 100 pages long, which also means that if you're more data-oriented, as I continue writing my script, the story map, if it's really kind of hard to see, but I'll zoom in here, the story map actually starts to fill out. This gray bar here actually starts to fill out the more that I add scenes and content into the actual script. If I'm looking at this, if I choose to have my target page goal be 100, although I can change it to anything I want by going to change target script length, I can actually look at my script in percentages too as I'm writing it, right? So if I've chosen 100 pages as my script length and I see that my story map is starting to fill up here in this little gray bar, if it's starting to fill up to page 20 or the 20 hash mark here, that means I'm 20%, I've written 20% of my script. Both for the sake of the demo and for explaining this, I'm just going to leave it at 100. Let's just say my script is only 100 pages. I know that certain things need to happen at certain moments in the script. If my midpoint is the midpoint, the middle of my script, I'm going to drag that up to 50. I'm going to take the all is lost moment and put that here at 65 or 66, whatever. And then, or that was my break in Act 3, sorry. So, I mean, this is good for the demo. If I want to move a certain structure point and I hover over it and I see what it is, I can just drag it out and move it to here. So let's do my break into Act 3 here at 70. And then I can put my all is lost somewhere in the middle there. Let's see what would make the most sense. Probably 60. So there you go. So now what I've done is before I've even started to write my script, let's say I have outlined my script or I'm in the middle of outlining my script, I've denoted where certain major milestones of my script need to happen. And then I can start adding beats to each one of these milestones and then add the beats to give the subsequent action that's going to be happening after that, right? So let's just say you'll see here that I have my opening image, and then I added a beat, and I added a beat by going to new beat. If I right click or if I control click for Windows, or control click for Mac, sorry, if I right click for Windows, control click for Mac into this Beatboard, then I can choose to add a new structure point, a new beat. Let's say I actually want to move this down here to my debate, and I want to further the struggle. I can keep that beat here. And we know, again, it's a beat because, one, I chose beat, but also it's not the border isn't as thick as a structure point. Let's say that I want to show that this beat, I want to get that high level view and show that this beat is happening directly after or directly within the protagonist's central debate. I can take that and I can drag that up into the story map as well. And you'll see that while I have a page goal here, like I do in my structure point, the hash mark is actually in the lower half of the story map instead of being in the top. So I know that this is where the debate has to happen, and this is where stuff hits the fan. We'll keep it PG. So what I can do now is, like I said, outline each and every moment of my script, page by page, minute by minute, and really get that high level view before I even go into the script at all. So when someone asks what's the best way to lay out a beatboard, well, it comes down to what you're trying to do with the beatboard, right? If you are using this in the same way you would a corkboard in the writer's room, then this is going to be the way to do it. You know, put your acts out here, and then put the subsequent action happening in each act to the right of that. Put that up into your story map, and then you have this high-level view of the major milestones and what's happening on each page, right? Now, we also know that I can bring images into the script. You can also create a beat based off an image in the beatboard. So let's say I have a general note, and I want to introduce the town that we were this lone cowboy's riding through. I can do new beat from image. Pulls up, and I go to my my list of images from my desktop. Put that in there, and now I have this image of the ghost town here. If I'm introducing that ghost town right here on the first page, maybe, or even page 3, or yeah, page 3 over there. If I hover over that here in the script and I'm writing, I know that I want to introduce my location here on this page. There's now a page goal, and if I hover over it here, it's there on the story map. I can also, again, drag that image directly from my desktop into the script, into the beatboard. But you have the option of simply creating a new beat based off an image that you know you want to incorporate into the script. So now that I have, let's pretend I've outlined and beated out the entire script here in my beatboard, and I want to start writing my script. Well, what we want to do is we want to go back into that split screen view that I had open in the beginning. There are a few ways to do that. I always like to have my split vertically icon here in the toolbar because I do this often, but I can also go to view. Anytime we're talking about a different view, something that's not your script or just changing what you're looking at, it's probably going to be in the view menu. I go to view and I go to split vertically. Again, I have 2 versions of the beatboard open, but I want to place my cursor here on the left. That way I can go to view and I can go to script page view. But we know that I also like to have it in the icon in the toolbar. So I go to the page view icon here. And now I have both my script open and my beatboard open simultaneously. And that would be exactly what you saw when I opened this sample script. Right now, this really is the full and complete example of what I'm trying to communicate from before. If you notice, there's tons of beats. There are tons of structure points here in the story map. There's also a full and complete story map like status bar, right? But you'll notice that there are colors where there are colors in this one. There aren't colors in mine. That actually is pulling from index cards. Now, index cards are different from the beatboard and story map, and this sort of gets really deep into the milieu of what the program can do. But if I wanted to see exactly what is color coded from my script, then I would go to view and I'd go to my index cards. Now, I placed my cursor in the right panel, so it's going to show up here in the right panel. These are the index cards, and this is the index cards script view, right? Now, what this is pulling the information that's already written into my script. This is not something that I'm filling out. These index cards are being populated from the material that's in the script based on its scene. And in Final Draft, we define a scene by writing out a scene heading and all the subsequent elements, whether that's action, dialogue, character names or transitions, whatever it is, all of that up until the very next scene heading element, right? So if I'm just looking at this very first scene, that's this very first index card here on the right. If I were to drag that index card over, Drag it over, or let me go down here and do it that way. I'm using my trackpad, so some of this stuff doesn't always track as well as it should, but it did happen. So if I dragged something from if I dragged an index card in the script view, it would change the location of that scene here in my script, which I just did. So I actually just got rid of my opening scene. I dragged it to page 3, I believe. So now it's in there, but I'm gonna undo what I just did, and you'll see that now it's back to the way it was, right? So that's where the story map in here is being colored from. But even if I were to hover over these scenes here in the story map, you'll see, because I'm hovering over it, it's populating what scene that is. And I know that it's going to be this scene down here, and I know it's color-coded in yellow because I chose what colors these index cards are going to be. But I didn't choose what's going to be in these index cards. You do have the option of actually adding index cards that you can write into, and that would be in the index cards summary view. That's also available in the view menu. If I go to summary, now I can start adding information into my script. Now this, I think people may have some questions about this because it's a totally different feature from what I'm explaining with the Beatboard, but I do think it's worth showing that just because I have my example of a story with the story map and Beatboard, and I have this example, and if someone were to pull up the sample script and see that this is colored and try to figure out how they can do that in their script, well, now you know that you can do that from the index cards feature. But also just note that, like I said, when you're in index cards from script, you can't edit the index cards. The material that's being put in the index cards is what's in your script. But if I go to index cards summary, then I can start adding some more information here in the index cards. But regardless, it can.
Would you think about it as like, if it's in the script, the index card script mode, that's when you're like, I'm moving around elements. Like I want to be able to like wholesale, just kind of like, oh, this scene, we were going to start with that, but now we think it should be later and we should start on like a past flashback scene.
Exactly. And if you had that flashback, exactly, that's exactly correct. If you had that flashback scene maybe 10 pages later, you could change the order of those and you would be able to do that in the script. And then the summary, you can write that out for yourself, right? You can write out the summary of what's happening, so you can reference both of those. Like I said, I think it's worth bringing up just because if you go back to my example, while we can see that there are scenes being, the story map is being populated with scenes as I write, they're not color coded, right? If I were to open up my index cards and I go to script, see they're not color coded here. But if I do decide to color code it, and we know that this is my opening image, and it's red. Actually, let's make it purple to keep everything uniform. But now it starts to color code in the story map. So I think that's kind of clear for everyone, or I hope that's clear enough for everyone. Again, if you have any other questions about this, I'm more than happy to answer them via email or even in the chat. But I think that's worth showing. If I bounce back to my sample script and I choose to open the Beatboard here on the right, when the program decides to do that, what I was saying before is that if you're wondering how to lay out your Beatboard, well, it's totally up to you. It's totally dependent on what you're using the Beatboard for. But what's really, really great is that you can see here in this example. Let me actually make this even bigger so you can see it.
Screen it for you.
Oh, thanks. So I'm
really
gonna
get in there.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of material. I mean, this is like really a lot of material.
Right.
So I don't like to start off with this. But you can see that we've actually outlined a full and complete 52-page pilot script, right? It's a 5-act script. If I want to click on Act 4, or let's say I wanted to click on a certain beat here in Act 4 from the story map, I can very easily click on that icon here in the story map, and it'll bring me right down to that what's happening there on page 42 there in the Beatboard, right? And if I scroll back over, all this material is happening from, back from page 42 and all this previous actions happening It's in between my break into my act 4 and that little beat that I just selected on page 42. So this is the way you can really harness the power of the Beatboard to show that, or to just outline your story in the exact same way that you might do in a writer's room. So it's really helpful. It's there to, like I said, be a catch-all for all of your ideas and anything you might want to do. And what's also really cool about the Beatboard in Final Draft 11 is that if I jump back to my demo script and I go to the Beatboard, what I can do is I can actually take scenes from my script. So also what you were saying before, Marissa, if like you have like an idea that you want to maybe table for later, but you don't want to include this one in the script, this is where the Beatboard is really going to be most helpful. If I highlight that portion here in the script, and this actually is a flashback, if I take that, highlight it, and drag it into the Beatboard, it's going to create a beat, and it's going to retain the formatting of what I just dragged over, right? It's still here in the script, so I want to delete it. Whoops. I want to delete it, but now I have the scene here on the cutting floor for later. So if I'm ready to bring that scene back in at some point, I just created a beat that retained the formatting of it. If I want to bring that back in, click it, drag it over, and it's back in the script. Usually you have to clear out some of that extra space that's in there, but you have it. You know, that's been
so cool.
huge. Yeah, if you're writing out multiple intros like I usually do, and you don't want to necessarily delete it, create a beat, save it for later, drag it back in when you're ready to. It's housed really in your script file. It's there. Yeah, it's all there.
Right. I really like how customizable this is. I think, you know, there's so many different ways you could probably use it. Everyone probably figures out a way that they like to work with this this sort of a feature. But yeah, and I was wondering too, just kind of to that question again of like how to set it up. Are there like some templates that people can see?
Yeah. So actually, if you were to go back from what I was saying before, if you were to download those additional templates, you would actually, it'll come with that. It'll come with a Save the Cat template. There's actually also a template in that's pre-baked that you wouldn't have to download that actually gives you index cards for outlining. Index cards for outlining. So it gives you 100 blank index cards that you can actually outline to. So you have the option to start outlining your script both in index cards or in the Beatboard. But if you download those templates, which I definitely encourage you to do, you can get access to these pre-made templates that are there for you. And one in particular is that Save the Cat beat sheet. So
nice.
Save the work. So I just did all this work for no reason, really, is what I'm trying to say here.
No,
I'm just kidding. No, it's good to do it both ways, because honestly, if you download one of the templates and you know it may have more than you really need, if you want to just have control over your story and what you want to do, then do it that way. So that's the Beatboard and story map. We're getting kind of close to the hour here, but I think I should take the last 5 minutes to also just briefly go over one or two more features. If we go over a little bit, that's okay.
Yeah.
I hope it's okay. Sorry.
It's fine by me. I'm just if my stomach starts rumbling, that's the only thing that may be.
We're nearing the lunch hour here. I know.
But no.
So going back to my sample script, this is the one that's available in the script. We know that. One feature I definitely want to show everyone is a new inclusivity analysis tool. This is brand new in Final Draft 11, and this is actually an example of where it does behoove you to check for updates. The inclusivity analysis tool wasn't actually available in the first iteration of Final Draft 11. We released it, we pushed it out through a subsequent update. I think that was like 11.0.2. So when I talk about builds and versions of the script, if you downloaded Final Draft version 11, build 1 or build 65, whatever it was, it may not have had the inclusivity analysis tool in it. We perfected the tool, and once we were comfortable with releasing it, then we pushed the update out that had the tool in it, right? So if I go to the navigator, which I can access either from tools or my navigator icon in the toolbar, you'll see that for anyone who's familiar with the navigator prior to using Final Draft 11, the the character tab is now the inclusivity analysis tool. And just in case anyone is wondering that, why we did that, now if you go to scenes, actually what you have now in scenes is both the character information and the scene information. So all your characters are actually going to be laid out in the scene tab in the navigator. That way you can go through each scene and see which characters are in there. And if you've maybe written a character and then deleted it from the script, but it's still showing up in SmartType or it's still showing up in reports, you'd want to clear them out of here by scene. So anytime you've written a character element out, it's going to populate in the navigator, but it's going to do that in the scenes navigator to give you control over your scenes and who's speaking in those scenes. If I go to the character tab, you'll see that I have the inclusivity analysis tool. As it sounds, this is a tool that helps you track any and every trait you might want to track on your characters for inclusion purposes, right? This isn't a tool that berates you for not including, people who are over 65 or something. It's a tool that helps you customize and track the traits of your characters you want to have. So what it does is it will populate the characters who are in your script, but then these traits that are over here, role, gender, ethnicity, orientation, these are pre-baked into the program, but I can choose to show or I can choose to delete those as I need to. I can also choose to add a trait, and I can just do favorite band even. Like it really is any sort of trait you want to have in there. So let's actually take out some of these. Let's take out non-speaking scenes just so you can see that, and let's move this back over here. Now, what's happening here at the bottom, like I said before, so this is populating, this is pulling the data from your script, the character data from your script, right? And the traits that I have here are the ones that I've chosen to show or to hide. So right now we only have at the bottom one trait, and that's age. So we can see between characters, dialogue, and scenes, if I look at characters, 62% of my characters are currently unassigned, which means I haven't even assigned an age to 60% of the characters in my script already. That's something I'm going to choose to do, not something the program's going to do on its own unless you've filled this information out yourself. There are 19% of characters in their 20s, 10% of characters in their teens, and 10% of characters in their 40s. If I go in a dialogue, again, 57% of the characters in my script are the percent of the speaking characters in my script. 57% of the speaking characters in my script have an undefined age, but 34% of those characters speaking are in their 40s, and so on and so forth. Now I can choose to show another trait if I want to. Let's just do gender. Now I can see, even take that a step further, and see that of the 90% of 20-year-olds in my script, 14% are female, 15% are male. If I just wanted to do, maybe just see, let's go to boom, and then boom. Now I can literally just see if I have a female-oriented script or a male-oriented script, right? I can see that 52% of all the speaking characters in my script are female, are male. If I wanted to add, a different gender, I can do that. If I wanted to add a different ethnicity, I can do that as well. This script here in our sample script has like warlocks and aliens in it. So I can choose to show how many warlocks are speaking. If I wanted to say, and do an example, and I put my favorite band is either the Beatles or Drake, right? And I can do...
Very different. You're either one or the other, I guess.
Either one or the other. Yeah, exactly. That's how I look at people. Then I can do it that way, right? And I can just say, okay, of the 52% of speaking characters who are female, 4% favor Drake, right? Mm-hmm. I can do whatever I want. Right. So that's there. And what's also really great about this feature is that I can take this, I can create a screenshot. What I just did was I clicked that little screenshot camera icon in there, and I create a screenshot, I create an image of these pie charts, and I can throw that right onto my title page if I want. And that's I mean, yeah,
It's important to certain, places, and
well,
I imagine in some studios are just looking at, we need more. This is what people are wanting.
Exactly.
Audiences are wanting now.
Yeah,
So
it's something that you may discredit at first, but like especially if you're sending a script out to a financier who has a production incentive to shoot in maybe a Latinx territory or something, and you say that there are this many characters in my script who are of a Latinx background, that may help incentivize a producer or a financier to put more stock into your script just on a purely financial level. Not that the tool is there to do that, but
right.
Looking at it from the business perspective, I mean, it really just helps break down what's going on in your script that you may not just see from a title page, right? So that's what it's there for. Like you said.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I feel like this is another thing where it's like there's so many different ways you could like kind of play with it and use the data besides even just like inclusivity, just to kind of like have a sense of like overall like what's happening in your script, what your characters are doing.
Exactly. I mean, even if you're exactly right, even if you don't share that, it's there for you to see, right? It's there for you to just harness this data, because the future is data. I mean, now we speak in points of data now, right? So if you have all this metadata, if you have all this stuff that's in the script, I always lose my screenshots after I take them, but I could have taken that screenshot and moved it onto my title page if I wanted to. You have the ability to sort of take this data and make actionable insights off of it, and using Final Draft, all the metadata that's being populated from your script can go out to various different production heads, to various different departments, and make, like I said, actionable insights, financial decisions based off of what you're showing them. So that's why that tool is there. And again, it's not there to slap you on the wrist if you're not, writing enough of one ethnicity or one occupation, right? It's there for you to track your characters. One last tool that I'll go over is something that's also new in Final Draft 11. It's our tags mode. And I know that as Tongal creators, people are often wearing a lot of hats if they're going to be writing, and maybe also then shooting or breaking down their script for production. In previous versions of Final Draft, there was an ancillary program that's called Tagger. What we have in Final Draft is a built-in robust tool for tagging your script to break it down for scheduling and budgeting purposes, right? But even if I'm not a producer or a financier, or if I'm not in the scheduling department, what I can do is turn tags mode on. I'm going to do that for my icon here in the toolbar. Everything always goes back to the toolbar. That's like our roadmap for new features. But what I can do is I can highlight any element in my script, right? I can tag any item I may need for production at any time, right? So if I just chose a knife and I actually want to tag every instance of a knife, we can see that the tag knife will be applied to 11 instances of the knife. Great. If I do that, and then this pulls up my navigator window, but now I have a tags tab in my navigator. I can go into each scene and see every instance of where there might be a prop and what that prop is, right? Now, if I wanted to let's also go back for a second and tag all the characters in my script, right? So now every single cast member in my script is going to be tagged to an industry standard category, which is cast member, right? And now all of my characters are tagged. So now what I can do is, now that I know that I have certain props here in my script, I can start linking these. I can start linking these props to certain characters. So if I want my character Deanna to be linked to a knife, right? Anytime Deanna shows up, now I know that we're going to need to bring that knife to set because she's in it.
She is a rough and tumble person, and you don't want to get on her bad side, so bring a knife.
Bring a knife.
Right. That's great for if you're doing like script supervision or the props,
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing, like we're doing all this, we're doing a lot of this work ourselves before it even gets passed on to the production team. So for you to know that there are certain things you need to marry to certain cast members, it's only going to help you. It's only going to help. The more you know about your script, the more you can talk about these things, the more you can do or make the job of other people easier because you know the data. It's only going to help and market you as this do-all writer, producer, director, anyone and everything on a production, will be able to come to you and say, what is this? What's happening here? And you can have that information there. And what's also really great about this is that once I've done that, once I've tagged my script, I can generate a report based on that. So if I were to do a tags report by scene, because I went to tools and I went to report. I'm sorry if I went over that a little quickly, but if I wanted to generate a report, I can generate a report on scripts. I can generate a report on scenes, locations. If I want to do that, I'm going to go to the tool menu up there, the tools menu. I'm going to hit report. And I actually decided to generate a tags report here based on scene. So now that I know, if I go through each scene and it's in order, well, I actually have a cast member named Knife Warlock. And I'm going to know that in that scene too, in this volcanic core, I need to make sure Knife Warlock is showing up, and I need to make sure that I bring a knife to set. And then Deanna may have to come in later and fight over it. But regardless, we know that I get this high-level view of who's in the scene, maybe what's happening, and what props I need to also bring. So that's going to be really helpful for people who are sort of wearing many hats in the production, who are not just writing the script, but who are also taking this into the logistics of scheduling and budgeting and breaking this down. So that's tags mode. That's only available in Final Draft 11. And I think I definitely don't want to keep talking just because I honestly could keep going.
I think, maybe we'll start wrapping it.
Yeah, but if there are any questions, I'd love to take those now. I think.
If anyone has any questions before we head out, now's a great time. And then also, if anyone had any questions after this, is there a specific way that they should get in touch, or the best way to have those questions answered?
Yeah, I'm more than happy. My inbox is always open. I'm more than happy to have our Sadie to give my email out to you, or whoever needs to get my email can have it. They can inbox me, email me directly, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions. We have the visual here, so if there are any questions you want to see in action, I highly encourage you to do that in the next 7 minutes. But if not, you can reach out to me directly. You can go to our YouTube channel for any of the features that I went over today. And you can also just play around in the script. And one more thing I think is worth showing is that what I mentioned before is on feedback. We do encourage you to submit feedback. You can submit feedback right here in the script. It goes directly to our marketing team, maybe to me, or maybe even to our product team if it needs to. But you can do that right here in the program by submitting feedback. So any and everything you can think of, just send it over.
That's a great note.
Yeah.
People are going to see it.
Yeah, well, we do, and we honestly evaluate every single thing that comes in. It's a very democratic way of doing it. We have a system where we see how many people are requesting a certain thing, and if it gets high enough, then we seriously start working that feature into the program. So we are listening, and we're here to help.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. I learned a ton, and now I'm ready to write my first script because I've never written one. But nice. I really like all the features that are in this. I think it's really nice and smart, just beyond obviously just writing a script.
I think it's really you can do so many things with this. It's not just for the writer anymore.
Right. So that's really cool. Thank you so much for your time today, and for all of our community members all over the world. Thanks for watching. And if you learned something new about Final Draft, go ahead and give us a like on this video, and watch out for more community live streams coming soon. Thank you, and we'll see you later.
See you later, guys. Thank you so much.